Jets head coach Jeff Ulbrich has revealed multiple different injury updates for New York Jets players, specifically such as Allen Lazard and Sauce Gardner, who both of whom have been dealing with injuries. And this is going to have a big implication on the New York Jets in their game against the Miami Dolphins. And we're going to break it all down and break down Ulbrich's comments. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here, and we're going to jump right into things as always. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel. 18% of viewers are subscribed. But let's jump into it. Obviously, in the NFL, there's a lot of guys who are usually questionable after any game. It's a contact sport. There's a lot of movement going on. A lot of guys out there. There's just going to be injuries. And head coach Jeff Ulbrich was asked about these injuries now that it's Wednesday. And we got from SNY absolutely nothing. No, I'm kidding. What we got was SNY revealing that, on a positive note, the team is opening a 21-day practice window for both wide receiver Allen Lazard, who's dealing with a chest injury, and offensive lineman Wes Schweitzer with a hand injury. And Jeff Ulbrich is hopeful that both players can be activated to play on Sunday. Lazard has 30 catches on 412 yards and 5 touchdowns in 7 games this season. Now, obviously, Matt, Allen Lazard is an important player to the New York Jets. It's too little too late, though, bringing him back, as the Jets have been eliminated from the playoffs. So it does become a little bit interesting in the sense of, like, I guess it will be good to have him back in a few weeks, but I don't really see any purpose of Allen Lazard, if you ask me.
So an important thing to notice with this report from SNY is it dropped early this morning around like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And since then, Wes Schweitzer and Allen Lazard have both practiced today. So they're already practicing after not even 24 hours from being, designated to return from IR. So that's a good sign for them as far as it goes for them playing. I think did you say Jeff Ulbrich is hopeful that they're going to play this Sunday too?
21-day window. So
no,
possible.
they're already practicing today.
Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, you have to imagine that people are not going to be practicing if they're not with a team that's 3-9. It doesn't make sense. They're not going to practice just to practice. Allen Lazard's a veteran guy. He doesn't, this probably sounds pretty bad, but he doesn't need reps. He's going to play when he's ready to play. And if he's practicing on a Wednesday, full practice, not a limited practice, full practice, you have to imagine that means he's going to play on Sunday, which I expect him to, which is going to be helpful. If you take a look at the depth chart right now, Malachi Corley is the third wide receiver for the Jets. So Allen Lazard would take over that role because Malachi Corley played 60% of the snaps on offense last game against the Seahawks and still really did not make any effect on the offense, which is pretty disheartening to see because that's a guy that I'm rooting for, a guy that I know a lot of other Jets fans are rooting for because he could be a really fun player. He could be a Deebo Samuel type, a rushing threat, a run after catch threat, as well as just a normal wide receiver, route running, potentially jump ball too threat. So I want to see what the kid has. I said it before, I'm always gonna say it again. I'm rooting for the kid since before he was drafted to the New York Jets. So I'm really excited that we got our hands on him and get to see what his career turns into. As far as it goes for Wes Schweitzer, we want to make sure this offensive line stays healthy. We're gonna have some more updates later in this video talking about offensive linemen for the Jets. But when you have an old quarterback, you can't move around a lot, and especially on a team that's really, really bad, you got to make sure you protect the quarterback. It's going to be important to get guys, their offensive linemen, playing at the highest possible level that they're able to play to. And if guys are injured, then we're not going to be able to play them. We're going to have to play worse players. It's a good sign to have these guys back.
Now, speaking of the offensive line, there has been a lot of updates with them and with other players involved, such as the fact that Morgan Moses with a shoulder injury, Elijah Vera Tucker with an ankle injury, both currently are not practicing on a Wednesday, which is not a good sign that they'll be playing. This also goes for Breece Hall and Sauce Gardner, and we'll get into them in a minute. But also we've seen a lot going on with the offensive line, and we've seen that Olu Fashanu looks great. We've had a lot of good moments with this offensive line, and I mean, I'm happy with the situation at hand with the offensive line as much as you can be in this season. Like, I don't think they're necessarily the problem at all. And you still do have your younger guys in, so I guess not having Moses is an issue because Tyron Smith is out, but at this point of the season, Hey,
I'm just happy to see Olu Fashanu doing really well because I told everyone he was going to be a really good player coming out of Penn State this season. And a lot of Jets fans want Brock Bowers. They want to run with Dunze. but I've been pounding the table the whole time for the at the time backup. But I'm telling you, it's a very important position. That tight end is not as even close to as important as the left tackle position is. You got to have your quarterback up right at all times. He can't be getting sacked. He can't be worried about pressure coming off his blind side, unless he's a lefty quarterback, of course. Then it would be the right tackle that matters a lot. But the Jets, the math tells us that the next quarterback, whether that's Aaron Rodgers or someone else, is going to be a righty. So that left tackle is going to be his blind side. So we're going to need a left tackle to protect him really, really well. And that's going to be Olu-Fashanu. And I'm really excited to see. He's going to be one of the potential bright spots for this season going forwards. In a season that looks like a developmental year, Olu-Fashanu is a guy that I really want to see what he can do, because we know he's a really good pass protector, but I want to see him turn into a really good run blocker as well. He was projected to be a first overall, the number 1 overall pick to the number 3 overall pick going into last season. During the season, he fell down draft boards a little bit, dropped all the way to 11. What a fall from grace. But I really think that he can get back to that blue chip elite level prospect that he was expected to be. I really don't feel like he ever fell that far. Watching him on film, I really thought he could be a really, really good player. And so far, when he has returned to his natural position at left tackle, it looks like PFF is really backing me up on that take, because I really think this is going to be a guy who the Jets can count on for a really long time going forwards.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I'm a big fan of Fashanu's game, and with all these current injuries and stuff, obviously, Zach Bailey, practice squad, signing, I'm not
more
really
offensive,
moved.
more offensive guard depth. That's really what this is for here. So we got, as you mentioned, Elijah Vera Tucker, he's injured, as well as our right tackle Morgan Moses. So that maybe we got to kick someone out to right tackle. Maybe Morgan Moses, if he's injured and AVT is healthy, they might decide to kick AVT out to right tackle, which we see in the past. He has been he's been a player who's played all 4 positions of offensive line aside from center. So he might have to go play right tackle should we need him to do that, because we know he can do that. And Zach Bailey would be more guard depth should, in that game, one of our starting guards go down.
Yeah, I mean, sure thing. That works for me. But also on the topic of Sauce Gardner, the New York Jets, it's kind of a question on if they're going to play Sauce or not. Same goes for Breece. And Breece we're just going to see as time goes on. And with Braylon Allen back there, it's not as big of a concern. Sauce Gardner's obviously had a very weird season, and Jeff Ulbrich spoke on Gardner's injury, saying that he plays a position and we're playing an opponent where you cannot play with a pulled hamstring, in my opinion. We'll see how it goes. If he's feeling good and ready to rock and roll, then we'll let him play. But if not, this is not a game we want him at half speed. Now, I agree. There's no reason to mess with Sauce at all. I understand this has been a down year for Sauce Gardner. I don't think he's, cooked or anything. I think he'll be fine in the long run, and there's no reason to mess with an injury.
Absolutely no reason to mess with an injury, especially when it's to your premier young players at a premier position, that being cornerback. What coach is talking about when he says this game, this opponent is not someone you want to be half speed for, he really means that, because we're up against the Miami Dolphins. They tried out a track team every single game. They got Tyreek Hill, maybe the fastest wide receiver 1. Jalen Waddle, potentially the fastest wide receiver 2 in the league. Maybe Xavier Worthy's faster than him, who knows. Tight end, Jonnu Smith, one of the fastest tight ends in the league. A-Chain, Mostert. I don't have to keep going. They're in the AFC East. People watching this video understand how fast the Miami Dolphins are. So if Sauce Gardner at 100% speed is not really fast enough to keep up with these guys, so Sauce Gardner at anything less than that sounds like a really bad day for Sauce. And I don't want to see his confidence get hurt farther than where it's already been this season, because corner is a position where you need to keep your confidence up, because as soon as you stop being confident at corner, you're going to start playing a little bit differently. And in your mind, you're not going to play the position the same way. Going into his NFL career, he had never, ever given up a touchdown, and that gave him a ton of confidence. And Sauce was able to ride that confidence into back-to-back first-team All-Pro selections at cornerback, the first cornerback in NFL history to do that. But this season, fans have been getting on him. The refs have been getting on him a little bit. He's had a little bit of a down year in his standards. He's still having a perfectly fine year in terms of corners. It's just not what we've come to know from Sauce Gardner. Him being an elite corner wasn't an elite year. So he's got to keep that confidence up. And I really, at 3-9, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to sit him out for this game if he's not fully healthy.
Yeah, there's just no point. I mean, next year is a contract year for Sauce. You know he's going to perform in it. And maybe the Jets won't have much to root for, but you never know. The football season is always strange. There's a lot of shockers every single year. For instance, the Vikings this year. I mean, obviously in a better position than the Jets will be in next year, but there's just no reason to mess with Sauce Gardner and mess with an injury. He's too valuable to this team. You're probably going to end up paying him a ton of money. There's no reason to mess with an injury. I mean, as you said, like, he's not someone, for all I think Sauce is great at, he's not some super fast Noah Lyles of an NFL player. Like, he's great at a lot of things. He's just not going to burn out every single receiver. And I mean, Tyreek Hill, one of the few guys to score a touchdown on Sauce Gardner in his NFL career. There's no need to play him, especially if he's not practicing Wednesday. Don't put him on short practice on tomorrow's practice and then walk through on Friday. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I imagine Sauce Gardner will not be playing against the Miami Dolphins. I imagine Breece Hall won't be playing against the Dolphins, which means we'll see a lot of Braylon Allen also.
Hey, when it comes to Breece Hall, I think that's someone that you can play in a limited role because you can control exactly how many touches he gets. Unless, of course, someone fumbles and he has to pick it up. With Sauce Gardner, when you put him out there, there's going to be alarm bells going off on the Miami Dolphins sidelines. They're going to say they have an injured half-speed corner in the game. We're going to go after him every single play. So that's why I really don't want to play Sauce, but I would be okay with playing Breece Hall, especially because we know that our backup running backs can definitely carry the load as well. We watched Isaiah Davis get into the end zone for his first career touchdown this last Sunday, which was great to see. Wish we would have closed that game out with a win, but I'm confident that the Jets can, get a good look at these running backs in this room. After getting rid of Israel Abanikanda, there are only 3 real offensive running backs, so you have to imagine that all 3 of them are going to get a decent amount of burn here as we go through the end of the season.
I agree. And we're going to see how the rest of this season goes. No matter what, I always say I want to stop watching, but I know I'm not going to stop watching. It's just...
Every Jets fan says that. You see it in every Instagram comment section, and the owner of the account's always like, I'll see you next Sunday. And they comment back, I hate you, but you're probably right.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do, man? Time goes on. Same old Jets for now, but I'm going to keep believing and holding out hope that we see something that makes the game worth watching. Maybe you'll just have to start gambling on them. Or, well, against them. I'm not going to bet on the Jets to beat the Dolphins without Sauce Gardner. And
we'll gamble over under 1.5 pressures given up by number 74, Olu Fashanu.
Love it.
And you know which side I have.
Slam
you know
which
side I have.
Guys,
we might have to make the line 0.5.
Yeah. Still slam the under. It's -1. Slam the under. Look, guys, shout out Olu Fashanu for being the GOAT. Guys, like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, and go Jets.